Welcome back everyone to another video, and today we are talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, the first episode of my in-depth series going over every single NFL team heading into the 2025 season, talking about their record, their offense, their defense, their coaching, all that kind of stuff. We will have some cool visuals on the screen, pretty easy to read, just kind of ranking the offense, the defense. We'll have some key players to talk about. We will go over the actual schedule for each team as the series goes on, give an actual record prediction, game by game, all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. It is free and takes just a second. I would really appreciate it. Leave a like on the video if you're going to enjoy. We're going to do a brief recap over last season. Joe Burrow, though, 4,918 passing yards, 43 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions. Incredible season where he was able to stay healthy and just was able to prove once again just how good he is when healthy. I think because of his injuries, people forgot just how good a healthy Joe Burrow is. Last year, he left no room for argument there. He is absolutely a top 5, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. However you shake it there. Rushing wise, Chase Brown was actually pretty good. And this is someone that I was actually talking about last year that thought was going to be good, but he didn't have a very big role. This year, much bigger role, and he was very, very solid for them. 990 on the ground with 7 touchdowns. He was also fairly active in the receiving game. However, apart from Chase Brown, didn't have a lot of love in the rushing game. Obviously, though, the Bengals offense, they're not looking to run the ball 40 times a game. They're not even looking to run the ball 20 times a game at times. They are going to air out the football as they showed last year. But still worth noting, wasn't a lot of help on the ground for Chase Brown. Zach Moss, 242 and 2 touchdowns, although he went down with an injury. They have Khalil Herbert, who they brought in midseason, who, again, not that great. So we'll see this year how that changes. The Bengals running back room is different. We will get to that. But yeah, that's for rushing. And then receiving-wise, Jamar Chase, the Triple Crown, 1,708 receiving yards, 17 touchdowns on 127 receptions. Unbelievable season. Literally could not do anything else. Just absolutely proving he is a top receiver in the NFL. T. Higgins as well, very, very good. 911 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. 12 games played in the season, so he would have cracked 1,000 had he been healthy. Although in the offseason, got his money. He will be back in Cincinnati, so that whole saga is over. Mike Gesicki, who I think went under the radar as far as league-wide news went, he was not talked about enough, in my opinion. Very good season. 65 receptions, 665 in the air, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Also, Andre Yoshivas, really nice second year, 479 in the air with 6 touchdowns. And then again, I said Chase Brown active as well, 360 in the air with 4 receiving touchdowns. So it was a good season for the Bengals. Overall, it was a great season offensively. Defensively, though, things were a bit different. And by different, I mean absolutely terrible. The Bengals literally could not cover anything, and it is the only reason this was not a team that appeared in the playoffs last season. They would have absolutely made the playoffs, but they're just, there was no anything on defense. Wasn't much of a secondary. The only pass rush they had was Trey Hendrickson, who had a phenomenal season. And then linebackers, they had some guys banged up. So it was rough. To be fair, though, there were a lot of injuries. You had guys like Dax Hill going down for the year, DJ Turner going down. I mean, it hurts the secondary. Logan Wilson, your linebacker, going down as well. So was this the ideal season overall for the Bengals? No. Are there a lot of good things that you can take away from this? I think, in my opinion, absolutely. It's easy to look at last season and say that was a disappointment. And in a lot of ways it was. But at the same time, it also reinforced the idea that your Super Bowl window is still open, but you have to go all in on defense to complete this team, because we just saw what Burrow and everybody can do when healthy. That's all there. They all got their money. That's all fine. But defense, it's a lot worse. It's a lot more up in the air. You have to re-sign Trey Hendrickson, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that. 17.5 sacks last season, phenomenal. Cam Taylor-Britt, that's something that I really was high on, and he struggled a lot last season. Geno Stone, who they acquired in free agency, he also struggled a lot last season, despite those 4 interceptions. So, again, we can build off this if you're Cincinnati. It's not the end of the world. You do lose Sam Hubbard to retirement, which is a bit tough for your pass rush, but let's get into this season. Offensively, things aren't really looking that different. We have Joe Burrow, of course, at quarterback, Chase Brown and Zach Moss for running backs. You brought back Samaje Perine, which I love that signing. And you also drafted Tajay Brooks. I'll be interested to see if he gets any time. And again, we'll get there in just a second. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yoshivas for wide receivers. Jermaine Burton back in his second year now, hopefully in a better spot mentally and physically. Mike Gesicki for tight end. Orlando Brown Jr. for left tackle. Cordell Volson left guard. Ted Karras center. Cody Ford right guard. And Amarius Mims for right tackle. This is a very solid offense. You're never going to have an offense where you have the best possible at every single position, but this is absolutely a championship level offense that is capable of getting there. They just need help defensively. And so speaking of defense, you have Joseph Ossai, your defensive end, along with Hendrickson, although to be fair, we don't know that, so I guess next guy up would be Myles Murphy. BJ Hill and DJ Slayton as your defensive tackles. Demetrius Knight, who you drafted, I believe, out of South Carolina for middle linebacker. Logan Wilson back and hopefully healthy as well. Wilson middle linebacker, Knight for linebacker. But again, Logan Wilson back and healthy now, hopefully. Oren Burks for linebacker. DJ Turner, cornerback. Jordan Battle back for strong safety, along with Geno Stone. And then you also have Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill back for defensive backs. There's a lot to talk about for the Bengals, and we're going to jump right into it. So basically on the screen right now, I have some players that I just kind of wanted to highlight now with these symbols, or the emojis, whatever you want to call them. So we did this last year. I try and keep it pretty simple. Now, this is not going to be every single player on the team. I want to be very clear about that. Just because I am listing someone and not someone else, such as T. Higgins, that doesn't mean that I feel like T. Higgins is not a factor. It literally just means I'm not spending time talking about T. Higgins right now. So to get into it, though, obviously we have unproven for the question mark. Player to watch with the eyeballs. I'll always elaborate on that whenever I use it. We have the star for star potential, relative to the team. So I don't mean as like a star across the league, but can be a star for the team, if that makes sense. And then the gem is top 5-ish. I kind of have that for like 5 to 6, maybe even 7 sometimes. Joe Burrow, though, honestly, just incredible, amazing season. I know there's a lot of concerns with his injuries, his injury history, but he came back, looked very, very good despite the wrist, and had a phenomenal season. Jamar Chase, Triple Crown, we already kind of talked about it. Burrow and Chase are one of the best duos in the entire NFL, if not the best. You absolutely have to capitalize on them while they're still here if you're Cincinnati. You have to go all in. There's absolutely no reason not to. Mike Gesicki, though, I want to talk about him. I feel like he really didn't get a lot of love. This is an underrated free agency signing last year, and he was very underrated this year because he was a very reliable target for Joe Burrow. At times whenever maybe Yoshivas wasn't on the field or T. Higgins was down for those 5-6 games, Gesicki stepped up, and he had some really nice plays. He even had a touchdown or two called back, and it was a solid season for Mike Gesicki. I think it was very up in the air how much he would contribute coming from Miami. But I love what I saw, to be honest. I believe they re-signed him as well. So this is a really, really great player, in my opinion, who I think you can always have on this offense as being very reliable, and you can kind of bank on that. Tajay Brooks, who they drafted, I believe, out of Texas Tech for running back. Now, right now, he's buried on the depth chart. However, you have Chase Brown, and you have Zach Moss, and you have P. Ryan above him. Now, as for P. Ryan and Moss, you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting somewhat reliable veteran running backs. Not much more than that. So in my opinion, I think we will see Tajay Brooks this year because this is someone who has a lot of upside to them. And I think it would be a bit disappointing if the Bengals didn't try and throw him out there and just kind of see what he can do. I love Chase Brown. I don't think there's a reason for him to really steal his minutes or his snaps per se. But I think you can find value with Tajay Brooks on the field more so than having Zach Moss eating up a lot of snaps. No disrespect to him. I just don't think it's always in the Bengals' best interest, despite him being a reliable veteran. But if Tajay Brooks proves to just really not be that great in year one, you do have those guys like P. Ryan and Moss to fall back on. This is a very, very solid running back room. So hopefully they can contribute around more than last year because it was really just Chase Brown on the ground. Defensively, we're going to jump down to Trey Hendrickson. So this is a top 5, 6, 7 edge rusher in the NFL. However, I'm sure a lot of you know who are watching this video that he is currently in his contract dispute with the Bengals, and it's been that way for a long time now. In my opinion, they should have signed him already. And if you were going to trade him, you should have done that already. It's just ridiculous it's gotten this far down the road. I think whether you think he should have been traded or signed or whatever, I think most people can agree it should have been done already, regardless of what action they took. But here we are, 5 weeks from training camp, still with no contract for Trey Hendrickson. And it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in because it's a 17.5 sack leader who had over half your sacks last year by himself. And without him, you don't have much. You have Miles Murphy, who's incredibly unproven. You have Joseph Osai, who, as I have the eyes on, I think he's a player to watch. Given a bigger role, if it all relies on him, I think he is capable and talented enough to rise to the occasion. However, you don't want to put all that weight on Joseph Osai. Whether you think he can do it or not, that's not a good game plan going into the year when your defense was already really, really bad last year. I don't think it's a smart move at all. I think you draft Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M as saying, okay, here's someone we can have behind Hendrickson if he doesn't stay, or even if he does. And now he's not signed as a rookie, and he's having this holdout over the clause in his contract for having his money possibly voided and all that kind of stuff. So it's ridiculous the way the Bengals have handled this, in my opinion. I think it sucks that Hendrickson's had to have held out like this, and Shamar Stewart has had to hold out like this. But at a certain point, you got to just look at the underlying problem, and it's the Bengals. If you want to win, you have to pay players that want to be there and can contribute to winning. And it's really that simple at the end of the day. I get the money and all that makes things more complicated, but if you are doing your job correctly, you should ideally have a plan more than just 1 year down the road. And if the Bengals really did just say, "Oh, we'll just sign Hendrickson last year or this coming season," going into 2024, if they were saying that, then all of a sudden, oops, he has a really good year, and oops, Chase gets the Triple Crown, all of a sudden that money you were saving for Hendrickson is looking a lot less for the money you now owe Chase. So it's just routine poor planning like that, and that's why they haven't been able to keep players like Jesse Bates, who they could have paid much earlier, but instead were tasked with the awful situation of, do we possibly overpay for him, or do we let him walk? Let him walk, and he's doing great in Atlanta. So it's disappointing. It's had to become a pattern like this for Cincinnati, but it's something that absolutely has to be figured out. Burrow said himself the other day that it is a distraction. It's impossible for it not to be because it's one of your best players, if not your best player, on defense who's not able to play. So for the Bengals defensively, a lot is up in the air. I want to say I have faith in this, but I really don't. As far as your defensive line goes, if Hendrickson's not in that field, I mean, you better pray Osai gets things together and is able to step up, because other than that, I've seen absolutely nothing from Miles Murphy to think maybe he could handle it. I have not seen much from, I cannot remember the other guy's name now, which is really bad time to blank, but I have not seen much overall from the Bengals defensive line that gives me a lot of faith in them moving forward if Hendrickson is not on that field, and if he's his possible replacement as Shamar Stewart's on the field. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't get it. Sorry for the long tangent and the rant, but I think it's relevant to this team because that was your weakness last year. The only reason you did not make a run at a Super Bowl last year was your defense, and why it is not a priority to improve that in any way possible right now is beyond me. Dax Hill, hopefully back and healthy. I do have the eyes on him. I'm not going to really count last year on him too much. He did get injured. He wasn't always great when he played, but to be fair, he was switching from safety to corner. So I would like to see another season of that before I completely am out on him. So that's why he has the eyes. You could really give him the question mark as unproven, but I do think Dax Hill has shown promising skills in the past to where if he's healthy and he has more time to kind of get used to this switch moving to corner, I think he can be someone of value. It just takes some time, and he got very unlucky with that injury last year. Logan Wilson, I gave the star to. I think he's phenomenal, especially for the Bengals. I think he's really, really good, and that was a tough loss for them last year with him going down. An absolute leader for that team. So, yeah, he's playing alongside the rookie Demetrius Knight. I think it'll be a very interesting combo to watch, but you need Logan Wilson back and healthy for that linebacker core to be at its best. So those are some of the players that I really wanted to kind of point out and watch right now for the Bengals. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of this does rely on the defense because Burrow can have the same year as last year, if not better. But if the defense isn't any better, it's going to be the same struggle of getting let down late in games because your defense just can't get a stop. Or throughout the game, your defense can't get a stop, and you try and outscore the other team. It's exhausting on the offense. It's not a good way to win football games. It's not a recipe for success. So at the end of the day, that has to be the focus. You have to just think maybe this new defensive coordinator, maybe bringing him in from Notre Dame, maybe that's the change we needed, and I'm not entirely sold on it. I think a lot of it is just the talent on the defense. A lot of it's just not there, in my opinion. I think they did try, but if you're really trying, you're really going all in, you'd be paying those players, and it's still up in the air. So at the time of recording this, if you're watching later on down the road, maybe Hendrickson's still on the team, maybe he's signed, maybe he's gone. I don't know, but the defense, in my opinion on it, largely hinges on if he's playing or not. But let's get to the chart. I still want to rank the offense and defense as I will for every single team. I'm sure you guys can probably guess, though, where these fall on the scale we have here, just making it super, super easy to read. S tier is the best, A, B, C, and then D. Offensively, I think it is absolutely an S tier offense. I think the Bengals, there's not a lot of offenses better than this. You got the Eagles up there, you got the Ravens up there, Lions up there, but the Bengals are right up there with some of the best. Defensively, I made it relatively low. I think even if Hendrickson is back and fully signed, full go, I still am not sold in the secondary. I'm not entirely sold on the linebackers apart from Logan Wilson. So, and I'm not really sold on the defensive coordinator hire either. I'm really not. So, it just really hinges on the defense stepping up. I think that will dictate just how high the Bengals ceiling is this year. So overall, I still have them at an A because this is still a really good team that is able to compete at a very high level with some of the best teams in the AFC, and some of the best teams in the AFC are some of the best teams in the NFL overall. So I do think that the Bengals are a threat. I think they are a threat to win a Super Bowl, and I think they're a threat to any team they will play all season because they're just that talented. But this new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, he absolutely has to implement something that really shows the Bengals they're here, they're ready for this next step defensively, and they're going to get it done. So at the end of the day, I have them ranked here. Overall ranking, we'll kind of have that at the end. I'll rank every team, not at the end of the video, I'm sorry. At the end of the offseason, I'm going to have every team actually ranked 1 through 32. But overall, I think the Bengals are still a good team. It's just a lot of question marks on the side of the ball that they really needed to improve on the most this offseason. So let's get to the schedule. The schedule is, it's not easy. It's not easy. There's really not a lot of, well, there's never a freebie game in the NFL, in my opinion, but there's not a lot of, if those were a thing, there's not a lot of freebies. You have Cleveland week 1, which is tough because Cincinnati loses in Cleveland all the time. They do not play well in Cleveland. Just a couple of years ago, they lost opening week to Cleveland, and they usually start slow anyways this season, and it just kind of plagues them the rest of the season. If they get off to a hot start, be a huge difference maker down the stretch for them. We have Cleveland in Cleveland, Jacksonville. I'm really excited for that game. I think it'll be a very interesting matchup. The Jaguars could be a much improved team. You got Travis Hunter in there, Brian Thomas Jr. year 2, healthy Trevor Lawrence. It could be very interesting. In Minnesota against J.J. McCarthy will be very interesting. Staying on the road, going to Denver against Bo Nixon year 2. Back to Cincinnati for Detroit. There's some tough games on here. You're already in a tough division. In my opinion, it's a 3-team race for first place. I don't see it with the Browns, and we'll get to that in a separate video because that will be a rough one. But I just don't see it with the Browns. So I see a Bengals, Ravens, Steelers race for first place in the AFC North. It's going to be a fight like it always is in that division. It's one of my favorite personally to watch in all of football. But you have some tough stretches. The end of the season, you have Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore all in a row. That is tough. And 2 of those 3 are on the road, and 1 of those is in primetime football. So the Bengals will be tested. They will absolutely be tested. I think they can still have a pretty good year. So this is my prediction for the Bengals right here. I do think they will have a good season. And this is very similar to how I predicted them last season. So it says a lot that I am still willing to predict them this high up there, even though their defense might not be a lot, much improved. But here's the thing. Last year, the Bengals had a lot of losses that were just straight stupid mistakes. Like the Chiefs penalty, not holding the ball correctly for an extra point against the Ravens, or field goal against the Ravens. There were many games that should have gone the other way for them, like the Patriots game week 1. The Bengals weren't great, but that was not the Bengals' best. Look at the Patriots in the season they had for the rest of the year. That was not a team that should have beaten the Bengals, but they did. So I think even with just some of those games going the other way, because they had some very bad breaks, that could be a huge difference. I also see the offense still being very very good, if not even better than last year somehow, because I still have faith in Yoshi Voss getting even better too. I think it's going to be a very good three wide receiver group. You've got Gesicki in there, possibly a better ground game, and a healthy Joe Burrow. It's going to be one of the best offenses in the entire NFL, in my opinion. Defensively, I'm expecting guys back from injury and contributing a lot, like Logan Wilson. Dax Hill, maybe not a lot, but a healthy Dax Hill is better than some of the guys in the field last year, right? So I have faith in the Bengals. I have them losing to the Browns week 1, though, because I think they carry on that tradition of just not being able to play in week 1, and especially in Cleveland. Beating Jacksonville, beating Minnesota, that'd be a really nice win for them. The Vikings are a very tough team, and I think the Bengals winning that game early on in the season on the road will show a lot for both them and the fans. However, in Denver, I have them losing, and I have them losing at home against the Lions. I think that'll be a very exciting game. And I'm actually excited for both those games, really. The Broncos, I just am still have some question marks on going into Bo Nix's second year. I think they are honestly a little bit improved. Their defense should still be amazing, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. I do think they beat Cincinnati, though. Green Bay, I think the Bengals win. Green Bay also a little inconsistent for me, and it's really hard to go game by game. I mean, we're in June. Like, trying to predict games in November, it's not gonna be super accurate. I'm doing my best here, but for Green Bay, I do have the Bengals winning that. I had them beating Pittsburgh in Cincinnati. I had them beating the Jets in Cincinnati and beating the Bears in Cincinnati. That's a very nice home stretch for them. It's a very winnable stretch that they'll need to win if they want to possibly make the playoffs. You got to get those winnable games in there. I had them losing in Pittsburgh. It's always a tough environment. Pittsburgh's not going to be a rollover team this year because they never are, and especially not this year. Bengals beating the Patriots. I'm confident in it this time as well, but I was wrong last year, so who knows? Losing to Baltimore in Baltimore, losing to Buffalo in Buffalo, but beating the Ravens back in Cincinnati, and then beating the Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns to end the year, going 11-6. I have this second in the division. I think I have the Ravens going better than this. But again, we'll have to watch. You guys have to see that next video whenever I post that one for that exact record. But I do think the Bengals will be at the top of the AFC North with the Ravens. Whether it's a 1-game difference or 2-game difference, I don't think it will be a very large gap. In fact, I think among the Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers, they'll all be about 2 games apart from each other at the most. So if you're a Steelers fan watching this or a Ravens fan, and you think your team is going to win the division, I don't blame you, because I could see it going literally any of those scenarios. Unless you're a Browns fan, then I'm sorry to hear that. But overall, I think 11-6 would be a very, very big success for the way last season went for Cincinnati. The talent is there. The talent was there for them to go 11-6 last year, but their defense let them down. I am just banking on their defense not being as bad this year because they have guys healthy. You have Al Golden, a new defensive coordinator, back in there. I think he can really help things. I think it's a fresh start that was just necessary for both the Bengals and Lou Anarumo. So, to me, you have a talented, if not more talented offense than last year, an improved defense, and a couple of those bad breaks not going your way. I think the Bengals are absolutely an 11-6 team. So that's what I have them going on the season. Make sure to comment down below, though, if you guys think the Bengals can get to that 11-6 mark. Will their defense hold them back? Again, will it be just as bad? Will it be worse? I don't really know. That is how I see it going, though. And that's going to kind of do it for the video, honestly. So let me know down below what you guys think of the Bengals going into 2025. Is this a real threat for a Super Bowl, or are they just going to implode when the playoffs come because their defense isn't strong enough? Honestly, I see a lot of different situations as far as the defense goes, but I think at the end of the day, your offense is just that good. If your defense is even just a little bit improved, you're a playoff team. And I think 11-6 is very achievable. But for the Ravens, I do want to just kind of get right into this with a brief recap of 2024. Lamar Jackson, unbelievable season. In my opinion, he should have won MVP. But again, Josh Allen had just as good of a season. So I can see it going either way. I thought Lamar had the edge, though, if I just had to pick one player. For last year, the Lamar, 4,172 passing yards, 41 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. Unbelievable season. It was an MVP caliber season. The postseason, of course, didn't quite go their way. And again, we'll talk about all that here in just a minute. Derrick Henry, 1,921 rushing yards. He just refuses to hit the age where running backs should be declining. And he's so far, just not doing it. He is still King Henry for sure. He had 16 touchdowns on top of those yards as well. Lamar Jackson as well on the ground, 915 yards, 4 more touchdowns there. And again, this was a very dynamic Ravens offense that was supposed to be dynamic. I mean, bringing in Derrick Henry was one of the biggest talking points all offseason last year for the Ravens and for the entire NFL. And it proved to be worth the move. I mean, it was unbelievable. Couldn't quite get to that Super Bowl, but again, we'll get there. Receiving-wise, Zay Flowers, 1,059 yards and 4 touchdowns on the year. Rashad Bateman, 756 and 9. And Mark Andrews, 673 with 11 touchdowns. Also, Isaiah Likely, 477 and 6 touchdowns. And we will definitely talk about Isaiah Likely again in this video. But overall, receiving-wise, it's about what you expect. You know, the Ravens are never a team, I think, that's going to want to just air the ball out constantly. They don't really have one of those true dominant wide receiver ones. But they have a lot of really good playmakers, especially after drafting Zay Flowers. He's a very solid wide receiver one, but they have a lot of playmakers like Rashad Bateman, like Isaiah Likely, Justice Hill out of the backfield. I mean, this is a really, really good offense. That could have been even better too, but they had a couple injuries in the running back room, guys that impacted their game that way as well. So overall, I was very happy with the Ravens season. Obviously wanted more success for them in the postseason, but as far as just continuing to build toward a potential Super Bowl win, I think they absolutely did that. Defensively, at times, things were a little sketchy, but you still got guys like Roquan Smith in there, Kyle Hamilton, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated or underappreciated, I should say, safeties in the entire NFL. I think he's just so good. I don't think people really give him the respect he deserves sometimes. But yeah, unbelievable season for him. You also have Madubuike, who had a great season as well. Kyle Van Noy, 12.5 sacks on the season. Nate Wiggins, the rookie corner, very solid rookie season as well. It's an exciting Ravens team. It really is. There's a lot of fun guys in this defense, and they only added to that this offseason in both the draft and free agency. And overall, there are some rough points in the year, but there's also some really, really dominant points to where I was honestly expecting the Ravens to possibly make the Super Bowl. Again, didn't quite get there, but again, we'll get to just how good this Ravens team could be this year right now. So the depth chart as it stands right now, Lamar Jackson for quarterback, Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell for running backs, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins for wide receiver, tight end Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, fullback Patrick Ricard, of course, and the offensive line, Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, Tyler Lindenbaum, Daniel Falele, and Roger Rosengarten. We're going to jump right into some players I want to talk about. So just right now on the screen, I want to be very clear. I say this in every video. Just because a player is not listed on this does not mean I don't think that they are worthy of something. I think it is literally the only reason that these players are on here, they're just some talking points I want to talk about. If a player is not featured, it does not mean I don't think they're good. Just to be very clear on that. The first player on that list is Lamar Jackson, of course. I mean, this is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. In my opinion, he is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, especially after last season. Up there with, of course, the big four, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. But again, this is someone that you can count on. I think Lamar Jackson is capable of winning a Super Bowl. I know people talk about his lack of postseason success, and it is certainly a pattern, and you don't want to let that affect things like can Lamar get things done, but at a certain point you do have to weigh it, right? And I still think Lamar is capable of getting there, but the AFC is tough. The AFC is very tough, and I don't think people really give Lamar a lot of credit there because while his teams are very good, and maybe he has some bad playoff games or he's had a bad playoff game, the AFC is incredibly competitive. And not to knock on the NFC, but I think overall, I think the AFC is much tougher than the NFC, especially in the playoffs. So, will I say, I'm not going to go as far as saying the Ravens would make a Super Bowl in the NFC, hands down, because it's just not fair to some of the great teams in the NFC. But I do think the Ravens have a tough road to get to the Super Bowl, and I don't think it's fair to blame Lamar for not being able to get there. I think there's a lot of other factors at play. At the end of the day, I think Lamar is capable of getting there, and we will hopefully see that happen soon for him. Another guy, though, Isaiah Likely. So obviously I have the star there. This is just relative to the team. I think it's a star player for the team. I see Isaiah Likely only being more involved, to be honest with you. Mark Andrews is a great player. I don't see anything wrong with him. You have to just bench him or throw him aside or anything like that. I think Likely is a great player, and I think he has the higher upside, and I think he's more dynamic for the offense. I think he's a better fit for the offense at this point. So that's really what it comes down to. No disrespect to Mark Andrews. I really like what Isaiah Likely brings to the table, and I expect him to be even more involved this coming season. Derrick Henry has a gem, of course. I mean, he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. He's a Hall of Famer. He's everything you want in a running back at this point. And if you want to try and get this Super Bowl, you need to do it while Derrick Henry is still playing at a very, very high level. I'm not saying it can't be done without Derrick Henry, but would you rather have Derrick Henry on your team to try and win a Super Bowl or not? You, of course, would rather have him on your team. So the Ravens need to capitalize in this current window they have to win a Super Bowl. Also, Keaton Mitchell. So I gave him the eyes. This is someone that was actually really good 2 seasons ago. Then he tore his ACL, unfortunately. Hasn't had a full offseason yet of being healthy, but now he does. Coming back into this season, I had the eyes on him. I think he's definitely a player to watch. This is someone that can really steal some snaps from Justice Hill, in my opinion. And I think you can see a lot more of Keaton Mitchell along with Derrick Henry in the backfield. Again, Justice Hill is a very solid player. I think he's really nice out of the backfield, but I think Keaton Mitchell is the better fit for the offense, and I think he has the higher upside as well. So I'm excited to see what they do with him. I'm excited to see him back and healthy. Definitely a player to watch for me. Moving over to the defense, Kyle Hamilton, I gave the gem to. I think he's absolutely a top 5 safety in the NFL, arguably. I have the ish down there, so really top 5, 6, maybe even 7. But I think Kyle Hamilton is absolutely incredible. He has great speed, great size, great instincts. He's great tackling. He can read the ball well. I think there's just so many things he does well, and he's honestly only becoming even more of a leader for that defense. Matabike, I gave the star to. He had a great season last year. He was very, very disruptive. I think only about 6.5 sacks, but it's still a very solid season, and he did a lot more than just that. So I think it's dangerous to look at only the sack numbers for defensive linemen. It doesn't tell the whole story of just how effective they really were. Same goes for Matabike. Great season from him. They draft Malachi Starks out of Georgia. This is a huge move for me. In my opinion, Starks is a phenomenal player. I think he only adds to that secondary that did struggle at times last year. I gave him the eyes because I think he's absolutely a player to watch in year 1. Honestly, this could be a huge boom pick for the Ravens. Pairing him back there with Kyle Hamilton in the secondary with guys like Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins now in year 2. I mean, this is a dangerous, dangerous secondary the Ravens have put together. Malachi Starks is only going to higher that ceiling for them. They did sign Jair Alexander, and it may seem weird for me not to be more excited about this or to have a higher kind of emoji or icon, whatever you want to call it, on him. But you have to understand, Jair has only played 8 games at the most in the last 4 seasons. Not combined, but in the last 4 seasons, the most games he's played in any of those seasons has been 8. That's not good. That's not someone you can count on. Everyone knows just how good a healthy Jair Alexander is, but it's now to the point where these injuries have stacked up, and I need to see more from him staying healthy to give him a higher grade. I mean, could he absolutely be a star potential on this team? Oh, easily. Just easily. Absolutely he could. But at the same time, I think there's other guys that are capable of stepping up if Jair goes down. And Jair has shown in the last few years staying healthy has been an issue for him. So I really hope he does, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that, and that's why it's not higher. So I still want to talk about him. It's Jair Alexander. It's a big signing, but health has to be a priority for him. I hope he can stay on the field. The best ability is availability, and he has struggled with that the past few seasons. Overall, though, the Ravens have a really, really exciting roster. They're one of my favorite teams to watch in the AFC right now, and I think this season can still be just as good as last season, if not better. But again, this division, the AFC North, is only getting better. I think the Bengals improved defensively. I think they even improved offensively, to be honest with you. The Steelers, I think overall, they improved. I mean, this is going to be a fight for first place in the AFC North among those 3 teams. I'm not as confident in the Browns, but for those 3 teams, it is not going to be easy. Every game is going to matter, and it's going to be a tough season. And so as I did for the other teams, and I will continue to do, we'll have a little chart on the screen to keep it kind of simple for my rankings. I have the Ravens maxed out, though. S tier is the highest. Funny enough, I had this exact same chart for them last year. I am literally reusing it. And it's because I'm still just as confident in them offensively and defensively. There's no reason for me to look at this and say, okay, they got worse here to bring it down enough. Yeah, they've had some changes, some turnover, but they've had some great moves to bring guys in. I think defense is much improved from last year, to be honest with you. And I was already high on it last year when they seemed to struggle a little bit. So I had them S tier, honestly. I think this is one of the best teams in the entire NFL. I think it's one of the best teams in the AFC. It's one of the best teams in the AFC North. This is a Super Bowl contender. This is a threat. This is one of the best teams in the league. But you got to show some postseason fight, and I don't think it's fair to say they haven't shown postseason fight. But I'm not going to lie, I would have expected them to make it further than they have so far. The reason I mention him, though, and really just anyone else willing to step up, is with DeAndre Hopkins there. And look, Hopkins has had an incredible NFL career. But at this stage, I don't know how consistent he's going to be for the Ravens, to be honest. I think this is going to be... Hopkins, I think, is going to be more effective than Odell was in Baltimore, but not as effective, I think, as some might think DeAndre Hopkins, the name, if that makes sense, will be in Baltimore. It's going to be somewhere in between for me. It's not someone I love to be on the field constantly, like this consistent weapon. I don't see it, to be honest. I think it's still going to run through Zay Flowers in the passing game. Bateman's a very, very good playmaker, but there needs to be someone to step up a bit more. Maybe it is Hopkins at his age. I'm just saying I don't have the most faith in him. I wasn't super excited about that signing, to be honest, but we'll see what happens. Defensively, as I've already kind of said, I don't have a ton of faith in Jair, but even without him, this is still a very good secondary. It's a very good defense, and it is truly, in my opinion, over the past couple of seasons, looking at the Ravens roster, I think this is overall the best one they've had. Maybe that's, I'm not sure that's like a hot take or a very common take. I don't really know, but in my opinion, at least on paper, this is one where you're full go win now mode. The Ravens have been in that mode, but I mean they're doing everything they can. They're getting guys like Jair, who's a proven veteran, even getting in Hopkins, a proven veteran. It's like they're trying to get as many pieces as possible, just put together and just go win the whole thing. And I think they're capable of doing it. I'm not sure where they really go from here. If they don't, I'm not going to get into all that because it's just so far down the road and so many hypotheticals. But the Ravens are good enough to go win a Super Bowl. They have the pieces. They've been making the moves. It's really just about going and actually doing it now. However, their path to get there is fairly difficult, and we're going to get into it. So this is my official prediction for the Ravens season. And it's very difficult to go game by game. And we're in June right now, and I'm talking about games in November because you just don't know what it's going to be like when that rolls around. But again, trying to do my best with it. I have been going 12-5 on the season, which is first in the AFC North for me. It is one ahead of the Bengals, who I have going 11-6, and then we'll get to the Steelers and Browns. But 12-5, I had them losing week 1 to Buffalo in Buffalo. It's always going to be a tough game. I think it'll be really exciting, but I don't know if the Ravens will really pull that one off. A little bit of a win streak after that at home, then losing on the road to the Chiefs. And then after that loss to the Rams, the Rams always just play everybody so tough. And I mean, it's just one of those games where I think the Rams will pull that off. I had them going on a big win streak, though, after that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 straight games after that to really get most of the season kind of under wraps for them. And then losing 2 of their last 4. But that still rounds out to 12-5 in the season. Beating the Patriots, beating the Packers, splitting with the Bengals. I have them, I believe, splitting with the Steelers as well, and sweeping the Browns. But, I mean, it's going to be a tough season. Like I said before, the AFC North is very, very competitive, apart from the Browns, in my opinion. So I do have them splitting the other teams in there. But, again, you got teams like the Chiefs on here, the Lions on here. The Bears should be improved. The Rams are very good. The Texans are tough. The Vikings should be pretty tough. It's going to be a very difficult season, but hopefully that shows just how confident I am in the Ravens to actually get that done, because this is not a schedule to scoff at. They're going to be tested from week 1 all the way through the rest of the season. I mean, you're going to Buffalo and playing the 2024 MVP week 1 of the season. You're getting thrown right into it. And, I mean, your first 4 games, you're playing 3 of those 4 teams that are Super Bowl contenders with the Lions, Chiefs, and the Bills. I mean, this is a tough schedule. I still think they come out on top of this. Any games I think could go either way. Honestly, the Vikings game, I wouldn't be surprised if that went either way. The Texans and probably a weird one like the Jets or something, just because it always happens to every team at least like once in the season usually. But again, I'm confident in this. I am confident in 12-5 for the Ravens. I would be very surprised if they were 10-7 at the worst, to be honest with you. So I had them 12-5, winning the AFC North and advancing to the playoffs once again, where hopefully they can make a run at a Super Bowl finally. But yeah, it should be a really exciting year. I expect very high-level football from Lamar Jackson, of course, from Derrick Henry, of course. I'm excited to see guys like Keaton Mitchell back, Zay Flowers now in year 3, Rashad Bateman again back and healthy after he was banged up 2 years ago. Had a great season last year. Hopefully he builds off that. The Ravens have a lot of really exciting pieces. They have some cool veterans they signed that can give you some meaningful snaps. And then most of all, your draft too. I mean, getting Malachi Starks, that I feel like that went under the radar, to be honest with you. That's a really, really good pick for a secondary that needed that boost. I mean, it's a week one starter, to be honest with you. It's a week one starter from the draft. So I'm really excited for the Ravens this year. I think they can make a run at it just as well as pretty much any other top team in the NFL can. But you have to establish, I think, some sort of rhythm because this is a tough schedule, and if you can go on a little bit of a run here, it'll make things so much easier. I know it's stating the obvious, but when you have schedules like this where you're just constantly tested, I mean, it's a long season, it's a physical season, and to get some of those knocked off in a row, it builds that confidence. The Ravens should have that confidence that they can do it, especially from last year. It's a very successful season. Just got to keep going off of it. And I do expect a 12-5 season from the Ravens. So overall, what do you think the Ravens will really be able to do in 2025? Let me know down below. Is this a team that's just going to continue to maybe regress? Did they miss their window? Is their window still open? Are they the best team in the NFL? I feel like people just can't decide how they should take this team, if they should take them seriously or not because of the postseason struggles from time to time. But I still think they're very dangerous. I think you're getting guys back and healthy that can help you out. Some great signings, very solid draft class, MVP caliber quarterback. It's just time to go win Super Bowl, to be honest with you. I think they're capable of doing it. I think it's very possible they will. But 12-5 on the year. Today we are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last season was a solid year for Pittsburgh, but not much more. Russell Wilson, he kind of came in after Fields played those first 5-6 games, whatever it was for him. Or at least started the first 5-6 games. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception for Fields. Not bad, but you could tell he just wasn't going to be the guy to take that team to the next level. So they put in Russell Wilson, who had a pretty good season. 2,400 yards and 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Much better than his first season in Denver and a bit better than even just his most previous season in Denver, so 2 years ago now. But again, I think you were confident enough in either of these guys on the field. Obviously with Fields, you could kind of play him 2 different ways. You have him in like 3rd and 4th and short downs to, run the ball, trick pass, that kind of stuff. And it was a fun offense, but again, it was just that stuck middle of the road that the Steelers have found themselves in for quite a few seasons now, where you're not really bad, but you're not really good either. You're just competitive, and you're not getting a high enough pick to greatly improve your team, but you're not doing, good enough to make a run at a Super Bowl. You're just kind of stuck getting into the wild card and then losing first round, if that. Again, this is a solid team, though. Rushing-wise, Najee Harris did crack 1,000 yards with those 6 touchdowns, and Jalen Warren with 511 and 1 touchdown. Obviously, we will touch on running back here in a moment, so just hang on to that thought. Receiving-wise, George Pickens, who, again, we'll touch on in a moment here. He had 900 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pat Freiermuth, 7 touchdowns and 653. Calvin Austin III, pretty underappreciated, actually. He's a very solid player. 548 and 4 touchdowns. Overall, though, this is just a Steelers team where you knew what you were going to get in the sense of they're going to be competitive. They're going to give teams that are much better than them a tough time, even if it doesn't necessarily always end in a win. And while, yeah, it was inconsistent as far as the offensive efficiency, it was still a competitive team for the most part, week in and week out, but they just needed something big, and I do think they tried to do that this offseason for what it's worth. Defensively, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who again we will definitely talk about here in a minute, he did his thing. You have Patrick Queen coming from Baltimore. They're in Pittsburgh. Very solid season for him. Peyton Wilson, the rookie linebacker, who I think a lot of people were watching as like a possible steal at the draft. Very solid season for him. Joey Porter Jr., of course, in his second year. And then TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. It was a very good Steelers defense, per usual. But a lot looks different now going into 2025. So the Steelers right now, at least offensively, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Robert Woods, Freiermuth, Connor Hayward, Roger Jones, Isaac Samalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautanu make up the entire offense. And again, let's just start with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot to talk about for the Steelers going into 2025, especially changes to both the offense and defense. But for Rodgers, this is like the best move they could have made. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Rodgers is going to lead them to a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think he's the perfect bridge quarterback to keep you competitive to where you can still evaluate other positions on your team and be competitive without having to like just absolutely tank with a terrible quarterback in there. And then also Will Howard, for what it's worth, from Ohio State, national champion, gets to now learn under Aaron Rodgers. Maybe, I'm not going to go super into it, but maybe. We'll see what happens in the future. Maybe sitting out for a year, learning under Rodgers. Maybe Howard steps in next year and actually makes the most of his opportunity. But as of right now, Rodgers is going to be the starter unless anything happens as far as injuries go. And I think he is still a good quarterback. I think people don't like him maybe off the field, and also he was just not that good on the Jets, so it's a perfect storm of just bad media perception and everybody wanting him to fail. Talking strictly on the field, though, I think it's not really a surprise. I would hope it's not really a surprise to anyone that, like, shockingly, the 40-year-old coming off an Achilles tear was not super great footwork-wise and with its fluidity, which, big shocker there. But I think already this offseason, he looks a lot more comfortable. And again, this is an older quarterback, all-time great or not. It is tough to come back from an Achilles tear, regardless, across the board, for whatever position in football, basketball, baseball, I don't care what it is. It's a horrible injury to have. You add that with Rodgers' age and the high contact sport that is, football, it's tough. The odds are stacked against him, but I do think he's able to finish his career strong, play well for Pittsburgh, get some other guys involved to show you. Again, kind of show you what you have. Calvin Austin III, he's a pretty good wide receiver who just hasn't really had consistent enough quarterback play to really showcase that. Metcalf, obviously, everybody knows what he can do. Robert Woods, proven veteran, but like Roman Wilson, that's a guy you drafted last year, wanted to see kind of do a little something. He got injured, didn't really do a whole lot. Like, Rodgers gives the opportunity for these other guys that have been waiting on a shot for a consistent quarterback. It gives those guys a chance to actually, make the most of their opportunity. And I think it's going to benefit Pittsburgh in the long run. Now, they did draft Caleb Johnson as well to help out at running back. This is a much different running back room. Najee's obviously gone. He's in LA now. So you have Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and Kenneth Gainwell and Trey Sermon for the running back room. And honestly, in my opinion, this is a pretty good running back room. I mean, even if Caleb Johnson happens to not be a whole lot, Kenneth Gainwell has proven to be somewhat solid in minimal snaps back in Philadelphia. So to me, Jalen Warren, great player. Caleb Johnson, a rookie with a lot of upside. Kenneth Gainwell, he's shown some flashes. And even Trey Sermon, he's like, a viable running back 3, maybe even running back 2, especially in an offense like this. So for me, I actually really like the Steelers' offense this year. I think it's been constructed really, really well. You even got Troy Fautanu, your top pick last year. He's back and healthy. So there's a lot to be excited about. Zach Frazier, again, your young center, he's back. I'm excited for Pittsburgh. It's a very, very competitive division. Rodgers, even though I am confident in him, is definitely still a big question mark. Robert Woods, in my opinion, not necessarily who you want starting at wide receiver 3 at this stage of his career. No hate to him, but let's be real here. So maybe Roman Wilson steps up. Maybe it's Scotty Miller. I don't care who it is, but that's really the story of Pittsburgh for me. And that's why I love the Rodgers signing, is because it can raise the ceiling of all those guys that are like borderline, maybe pretty good. They can really prove something now with a proven quarterback like Rodgers. I don't think we're getting the Jets' Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think we're getting, 6 years ago Aaron Rodgers either. It's going to be somewhere in between. I think he's going to be very solid. I don't think he's going to be a top quarterback in the NFL, but he's going to keep you competitive in a very competitive division, and I'm excited for Pittsburgh in that sense. Then defensively, you got guys like Darius Slay, proven veteran, Cameron Hayward, proven veteran. Now you obviously bring in Jalen Ramsey in that trade where you send off Minkah Fitzpatrick. These are big moves, and I'll give Pittsburgh credit there because sometimes it seems like they are cool with just floating in the middle, not doing a whole lot, and that's it. But this offseason, you go and you get Metcalf. You have the guts to say this is not working with Pickens, and you let him go. You send him to Dallas. So I do applaud them for that because it hasn't always been the Pittsburgh mentality to make these big, risky, honestly, offseason moves, but they're doing it. They brought in Metcalf. They got rid of Pickens. They brought in a quarterback. They got rid of Najee. They got rid of Minkah. They bring in Ramsey. You can't say now that they're at least not trying to make those big splash moves to really increase the ceiling of this team, because I think for so many people, when you watch the Steelers, they're a good team, but for the most part, they're not going to be a threat in the playoffs either. And it's been like that for the past 4 or 5 years now. So It sucks, but at the same time, it's like you got to turn that around sometime. And I think that's the start of what we're seeing right now is these moves being made. Things are trying to be turned around for the better. Like Jalen Ramsey. I mean, this is someone that is a top corner in the NFL. He has been for pretty much his entire career. I think even now that he's older and at the tail end of his career, he's still very much a good cornerback in the NFL. He's very much a starting cornerback. Joey Porter Jr., very physical corner, great player. Deshaun Elliott, they just recently re-signed. So they have confidence in a lot of these guys, and it's like, when you have people like Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Patrick Queen, those guys that are just pure just game wrecker players, I mean, all they do is disrupt. It's all they do. They are constantly disrupting, whether it's getting sacks or tackles for loss or pressures or passes defended. It doesn't matter what it is. Those type of players are what Pittsburgh's really built their identity off of for forever now. And they're continuing to do that while also trying to make these bigger moves. And that's why I like a lot of what they've done, because you're never going to get back to the Super Bowl just kind of sitting in the middle saying, okay, well, we broke 500. We made the playoffs. It is what it is. Like, you got to make that next step. This offseason, to me, has been Pittsburgh taking that next step. Even if it doesn't pay off this season, they are at least trying to get somewhere, and I respect that. So to talk about a few of these players just on the screen here, just some guys I personally want to talk a bit more about. Just to be clear, as I say this in every video, just because a player is not listed, it is not because I don't believe in them. This is literally just talking points for me and a nice visual for you guys just to kind of follow along. It's not like if I don't have, Jaylen Warren listed, it's not because I don't like Jaylen Warren, okay? Just for example. So for Aaron Rodgers, I did give him the star, which is, for me, just star potential relative to the team. So I'm not saying he's going to be a star player this year, even across the league, but for the team, I do believe he can be a star. And that's what Rodgers has been brought in to do. Yeah, it's his last year in the NFL. Yeah, he's older, but you still don't bring in a starting quarterback like this if you don't think he's going to elevate your team, your players, your culture. You just don't do that. So I do think Rodgers will be very good. I think he'll be better than what we've seen the past few years. How high that's capped off at, I really don't know, because, again, this is kind of uncharted territory with an all-time great quarterback at 40 years old, playing off a torn Achilles now 2 years removed. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that we don't really know fully what to expect because we haven't really seen it before. But if anyone's able to be good, be that good at this stage of his career, despite the injuries, I believe it is Aaron Rodgers, because he is an all-time great, and I think it's easy to overlook him, honestly, when you look at the past 10 years because of maybe his lack of Super Bowls and playoff success at times, when in reality, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever even think about football. So, yeah, I'm not going to say he's prime Aaron Rodgers at this point, but I think to write him off completely isn't fair either. So I still think he has that star potential for the team. Caleb Johnson, I gave the eyes to for player to watch. I want to be clear on this as well, because I have the unproven mark down there, just the question mark. I don't throw this around a lot because I try not to use this on rookies because, yes, a rookie is obviously unproven. But I try and use that grade on more of a starting player who's been in the league for a few years now who still does not have my confidence, basically. So, for example, at some point when we do the Colts, I will have unproven next to Anthony Richardson, just to be clear there. So, yes, player to watch for me, Caleb Johnson. Technically, he's unproven, but that's not really what that grade is supposed to be for, if that makes sense. But I did give him the eyes because this is the Steelers, and they are not afraid to run the football, whether it's Rodgers playing for this team or whether it's still Mitchell Trubisky. It doesn't matter. They would love to run the football if possible, and you have a very good running back room. Caleb Johnson has the highest ceiling out of any other running back in the room, in my opinion, and that is really why I gave him the eyes. This is someone that can start out with minimal snaps, grow his role, and then really have a huge second half of the season. That's kind of how I picture the season going for him. So he has the eyes for me. Metcalf has the star. I don't think any surprise for really anyone here. Metcalf, very physical, fast, great hands. He has a lot of really good traits for his size and his speed. And, I think he brings that to Pittsburgh. Absolutely. I think it would have been cool to see him play alongside George Pickens, but I also understand the Steelers making that move to, kind of have a fresh start for both sides, and you still bring in a wide receiver who's absolutely able to fill the role that Pickens just had. So I like the move. I respect it. I think Rodgers and Metcalf is a very interesting duo that I never thought we would see, especially in Pittsburgh, out of all places. But here we are. So I gave him the star, and I gave the second-year offensive lineman Troy Fautanu the star as well, coming back and healthy. I think this was a phenomenal pick when they made it. I think last year just a little unfortunate. I think he can be one of the best guys, if not the best, on this offensive line for them. I expect a big bounce back second season for Troy Fautanu. And then Roman Wilson I gave the eyes to as a player to watch. Again, is he unproven? Yes, but we are not quite to that point yet where I feel like I need to use that grade. He's still a player to watch for me because last season didn't have much of a chance and opportunity. He kind of got buried in the depth chart after missing time with that injury. Now you got Rodgers as your quarterback. I mean, wide receiver 3, in my opinion, is very much up for grabs between Robert Woods and Roman Wilson. So I'd love to see Roman Wilson really expand his role this year and branch into that wide receiver 3 role. Whether that happens or not, we will see. But I'm fairly confident that it's possible for that to happen. Defensively, Patrick Queen has the star. Again, very physical player, great linebacker. It was a great move for Pittsburgh to bring him in from Baltimore anyways. And so now he's back his second year in Pittsburgh, gave him the star. Not even thinking about it. TJ Watt has the gem for top 5. I have ish in parentheses, so yeah, top 5, 6, maybe even 7 is what this grade can be attributed to. Watt is absolutely, though, top 5 at his position. He is technically not paid yet, so it is a thing to watch, but to be honest with you, I am just not worried about that at all. So maybe I'll be shocked and something big will happen, but as of right now, I'm not worried about it. He's starting week 1 in my eyes, and he absolutely deserves a top 5 defensive end gem there. Jalen Ramsey, who they brought in, I still have the star on him. I still think Ramsey can be a very, very good corner. I think he is a very good corner, and I'm excited to see him in this Pittsburgh defense. This is one of those moves that I think caught a lot of people by surprise because of what they changed and gave up to really bring in Ramsey, such as Minkah Fitzpatrick. But again, I respect the move. I respect trying to make these big splash moves to greatly improve your team, and because the Steelers have not always been doing that. But I like the move. Ramsey's a phenomenal player. I still have the star on him. Peyton Wilson going to year 2, I gave him the star as well. Really fits the culture very well for Pittsburgh. I thought it was a great draft pick at the time. I actually wanted the Panthers, which is my favorite team, to draft him, which they didn't do. But again, I think Peyton Wilson's a great player. There was question marks around his health coming out of the draft, but I think he's a very physical player. He has actually pretty good hand-eye coordination as well for a linebacker. So again, very physical, can follow the ball, make tackles, can do whatever you want. He is that Steelers archetype linebacker, and I gave him the star heading into year 2. Might be a little generous, but I am pretty confident in that. And those are just some guys I want to talk about a little bit more additionally. But again, I see this being potentially a big year for Pittsburgh, but it's not going to come without its challenges because of your conference at large. I mean, the AFC is just absolutely stacked, and then even just your division. I mean, this is a 3-team race for first place. No hate to the Browns, but the Bengals and the Ravens, I mean, these are Super Bowl contenders that are in the same division as you. So it's going to be tough. I think the Steelers are built to compete with that, though. They've always been built to compete against that. Just a little chart I made just so it's easy to kind of see what I'm thinking here as far as the offense and the defense grades. I have the offense, and this is really tough for me. I have the offense at B+. I kept kind of flirting with the idea of having it either A- or B+. I went to B+ just because of the Rodgers question mark paired with the lack of wide receiver depth. So that was kind of my line of thinking there. If you're confident in the wide receiver room or even just an Aaron Rodgers, that's probably an A-tier offense for you. I understand that. So again, I understand if you guys have that, pretty valid, but I have that more B+ just because there are some question marks. I'm not going to pretend there's not. I'm also not going to pretend that this is the most reliable wide receiver room I've ever seen in the NFL either, because it's definitely not. Defensively, I have them down to A+, which, I mean, I had them at S tier, and I brought them down again. Defense, if you have an S tier, I don't blame you. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of things to love about the Steelers' defense. So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into making them S tier right now. Either way, though, they're a top defense in the league. I mean, you could say top 5, 6, whatever you want to say. I do think that they're going to be very, very good this year. So I have them at A+, and overall just being about an A to an A- team across the entire NFL. And I do think that I am pretty confident, actually, in this ranking just because we've seen the Steelers be competitive over the past couple seasons, even when it didn't look like on paper that they would be. Well, in my opinion, this looks a bit better on paper. So you would think if things are going, the same trend, they should be probably pretty good. Again, to me, it's not really even because if everything goes well, right, for the Steelers on offense and defense and all that, to me, it's also more of a, who you're going against, who you have to try and beat 2 times a year, who you have to try and beat on the road. I mean, this is not a cakewalk of a schedule by any means, and I don't think there's anything that's a cakewalk in the NFL, but it's definitely not one for the Steelers. So for their record this year, I gave them 9-8, which I was very close to giving them 10-7, but it's just so tough. I mean, right, we're in July, right? I mean, it is so difficult to sit here in July and say, okay, they're gonna lose in week 14 in November. Like you just can't do that. Like it's too hard. So I tried my best here. I have them winning the first 3 games of the year though, beating the Jets. Bit of a Rodgers revenge game, beating Seattle and Pittsburgh and beating New England on the road. Now, I do have them losing to the Vikings. They're in week 4, and I have them beating the Browns. I have them losing to the Bengals in Cincinnati, losing to the Packers in Pittsburgh, beating the Colts, losing to the Chargers, beating the Bengals there in Pittsburgh. So, again, let's talk about a few different ways this can go. So, the divisional games, just overall, I mean, it would take way too much time to go into each one because it's just such a competitive division. It always has been for the most part. So I can really see it's going either way. I think they sweep the Browns regardless. As for the Bengals and the Ravens, I have them splitting, but this could just as easily be a sweep for Pittsburgh or a sweep for the Cincinnati Bengals or a sweep for the Baltimore Ravens. Seriously, to me, it's really tough to call this, especially this early on. I could see the Chargers game going the other way, though. I could even see the Seahawks game going the other way, though, as well. So there's a few games that, definitely are a bit tougher to pick. The Bears game as well could definitely go either way. But I'm confident in the 9-8 just because that this is a tough team that's going to be tested. And 9-8 is not a bad record. And I think people are going to see that and go, wow, that's so low. But to be honest, in the AFC, if you're cracking 500 in the AFC, you are in good shape, even if you're not even a playoff team. Obviously, the goal is to win that Super Bowl or to make the playoffs and all that stuff. Pittsburgh, they are good enough to be a playoff team. The reality is there are teams in the AFC that are absolutely playoff-worthy teams that aren't going to get in because it's just that competitive. So, to me, 9-8 for the Steelers in a year where they still don't really have their franchise quarterback and they still have a lack of depth on offense, I think you can absolutely live with a 9-8 record. I know it's still that middle-of-the-road territory that they've been stuck in, but to me, until you find that franchise quarterback, you're going to be stuck in it for a little while. You might as well make some of those other moves to improve your team, and I think they did that. So to me, if 9-8 is wrong and they get more, it is really going to be because of the offense stepping up, because that's been a huge killer for Pittsburgh for the past couple of seasons, in my opinion, is the offensive consistency. So if that changes, then this could be 2 games better. This could be 1 game better. I mean, that's what the NFL is. So many games go either way, and every game matters. That's why it's so hard to predict this stuff accurately. But in my opinion, the 9-8 record can show that they stay competitive like they always do. They got some of those close wins that they didn't really deserve, but they also lost to some teams that are just really good. That's just the reality of the AFC right now. I mean, the Bills are a really, really good football team. I mean, that's going to be very tough to beat them. The Chargers are a very, very good football team. It's going to be tough to beat them. The Dolphins, maybe they're not the best team in the world, but they're going to be competitive because that's just what the middle-of-the-road teams are like in the AFC. So, for me, 9-8 for Pittsburgh. I don't think you're panicking. I think you're panicking if other things other than quarterback are failing. If your defense is letting you down, that's a big issue if your defense is the reason you went 9-8. To me, if the reason you went 9-8 is because of a lack of wide receiver help and Aaron Rodgers is getting too old and it's his final year, you can live with that because you're not dealing with that next season, right? You're still building the team. It's just one of those things where that's what happened to happen this year. Again, if it's a defensive issue, if it's a running back room issue, if it's an offensive line issue, it's a bit more worrisome. But I think if you go 9-8 when Rodgers is just on his way out, I mean, I think it's only up from there, really, because you're already making the moves. It's just about finding your quarterback. So that's my record prediction for the Steelers, 9-8. Let me know down below what you guys think of this. I know some might have some problems with it. I understand. But for me, that's just what I feel the most confident for Pittsburgh. Let me know down below, though, what you guys think of Rodgers. Is he going to be good this year? Is it going to be a huge bust of a move and it was just stupid? Let me down below. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns going into the 2025 NFL season. Last year for the Browns, it was rough. It was rough from pretty much the start to the end. Jameis Winston, 2,121 yards. That was your passing leader. Deshaun Watson goes down with that Achilles injury. I think we've probably seen the last of Deshaun Watson in the NFL. Even if he does come back from this ruptured Achilles, there's nothing at all, at least for me, to have confidence in saying he's going to return to Houston, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he couldn't do it sitting out for a year and then going to Cleveland, let alone now an Achilles injury, even more time removed. I don't see it. So moving on from him, DTR played, but again, this was a fairly raw prospect, and he looked that way in the NFL. Not too much to really go off of there. And then Bailey Zappi, not really going to talk about him. But yeah, so it's been quite the carousel of quarterbacks or the carousel of quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns, which it has been for a long time now, it feels like. You kind of just threw everything to get Watson in there. That doesn't work. So where do you find yourselves this year? Well, we'll get into that. That's at least for last year, though. Rushing-wise, Jerome Ford is your leader there, 565 and 3 touchdowns. Nick Chubb did come back at some point, 332 and 3 touchdowns for what it's worth there. And then Deontay Foreman, 232 with no touchdowns. Not much output there on the ground. Receiving-wise, Jerry Jeudy actually had a very solid year, and the biggest thing for me is he played every single game. Jerry Jeudy has been banged up a lot in his NFL career, even though he's a very good player. For me, the most promising thing was a full season of no injuries, so that's huge for me. 90 receptions, 1,229 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Great season for him. Elijah Moore had 538 with 1 touchdown. He's now in Buffalo. Dave Njoku, 505 and 5 touchdowns as well. And then it kind of steadily drops off from there. So again, for the Browns to find success this year, there's just so many things that have to be exactly right. And I mean, if it's going to happen, which we'll get into my opinion if I think it will, if it's going to happen, it has to be another season from Jerry Jeudy just like that. Defensively, Myles Garrett did his thing, 14 sacks, 22 total tackles for loss. We had Grant Delpit, of course, at safety. The corner struggled a little bit there for Martin Emerson, along with the other guy just lost now, so that really sucks. I can't find his name. That's Greg Newsome as well. But you still have, of course, Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in the entire NFL, so always promising there with him. But again, I want to keep the recap brief. Overall, 3 wins. It was a bad year. So you get into this now with a completely different quarterback room in 2025. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shadur Sanders. And do not worry, we will definitely revisit that in just a moment. Jerome Ford is the starting running back as of right now, but they drafted Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson for running back there. Judkins is now in legal trouble, so will it be suspension? I don't know. It's always hard to judge how the NFL handles these things or when it's actually going to be a closed case so they can hand out suspensions. So I don't really know. Again, we'll talk about that in a second a bit more. Wide receiver room, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and Deontay Johnson. Tight end, Dave Njoku. Fullback, Troy Hairston. And the offensive line, DeJuan Jones, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Pochik, Wyatt Teller, and Jack Conklin. So the Browns have a lot of question marks at a lot of different positions, and it's what scares me off from this team so badly. So first, we're going to get into the quarterback room. And I've talked about this before in past videos, but I'm going to say it again right now. There is no reason for Joe Flacco to be the starter, in my opinion. There's just not. The Browns have struggled a lot at finding their long-term answer at quarterback. Joe Flacco is not that. Even if he starts and he has 4 straight games of having 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, even though it's never going to happen. But if it were to happen, that doesn't help you in the long run. And that is the Browns' issue, is they need long-term, sustainable success at quarterback because they just have not been able to find it. So what do? They draft 2 quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd and Sanders in the 5th. You probably could have switched them and it would have made more sense going Sanders in the 3rd and Gabriel in the 5th, but whatever, doesn't matter. They're both on the same team now anyways. So you draft both of them. You clearly identify there's a problem at quarterback. What do we do? Well, in my opinion, what you should do is you should start Kenny Pickett because Kenny Pickett is at the very least young and provides you that upside. Joe Flacco has no upside. You know exactly what you're getting with Joe Flacco. You're getting a somewhat solid veteran player at the very end of his career who does not give you anything of value long term. You cannot invest in Joe Flacco. Kenny Pickett has been very shaky and very inconsistent for his entire NFL career. So the only reason I would say to start him over Joe Flacco is on the off chance that for some reason Kenny Pickett has a boom season or a boom start to the season, is he's at least young and can provide you with a long-term answer at quarterback if by some miracle he is able to provide that. Does that make sense? That's the only reason I see Pickett over Flacco. So to summarize that briefly, Flacco has a higher floor but a lower ceiling because I don't see his success being long-term. Kenny Pickett has a much lower floor but a higher ceiling because I feel like if he can put it together, he is still young and can provide that. That hopefully makes sense. So altogether, though, hopefully neither one of those guys are starting by like week 6. In my opinion, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, these are two guys that do need time to sit. I think ideally they'd be able to sit for an entire season because I think that as far as them as prospects, that's probably what they both need the most. However, I don't think you're in a position to do that if you're Cleveland. I think if you're starting Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett or a mix of both of them over an entire season, you're not going to find success. And at this point, you need literally anything to give you that spark and that quick, like a Jaden Daniels, okay? That's an extreme example of a young quarterback providing a quick turnaround. But that's the kind of spark the Browns need. The Browns need literally anything at quarterback to give them hope and say, okay, this guy could be our starter for the next 2 years, and we'd be happy about it at the very least. That's what they need, is that 2-year, 1 season more even guarantee. So to me, while I don't think Gabriel and Sanders should ideally be starting in year 1, I think they're going to have to at some point this year because the Browns are going to weigh their options. They did not draft 2 quarterbacks in the same draft to have them both sit for a year. So I talked about Flacco and the Pickett arrangement, in my opinion. For Gabriel and Sanders, in my opinion, you should give Gabriel the first shot because you did take him in the 3rd round. And if you had that much confidence to pick Gabriel in the 3rd round of the draft, you should at least be seeing if he can give you that kind of value that you clearly saw in him because you wouldn't have taken him 2 rounds further than you probably should have. So for me, when you're turning to a rookie quarterback, you turn to Gabriel first. You want to see if you can get your return in value for your 3rd round pick. It's a big deal. It's a 3rd round pick. With that said, I don't have any confidence in Dillon Gabriel. So despite him being 4th on the depth chart this year, I do see Sanders getting a shot. Whether that's in week 7 or week 15, I don't really know. But I would be very surprised if the Browns are reliable enough this year at quarterback to where they don't turn to Sanders. So I do think Sanders has the highest ceiling. I think it's going to take some time for him to get that shot unless the other quarterbacks just fail so miserably and the coaches just have no patience for it. But I do see Sanders getting a shot. I think he by far has the highest ceiling in the NFL. I think his floor is probably pretty similar to Kenny Pickett's, to be honest with you. So I don't see why you wouldn't give him a shot. In fact, I think Dillon Gabriel's floor is actually lower than Pickett and Sanders. So I would give Sanders a shot. I don't think he's going to be a superstar quarterback, and I've said that pretty much from the beginning when I first started talking about him. But for one, he does have the talent to at least be a solid starter in the NFL. And 2, that's what the Browns need. They need a solid starting quarterback. We do not need a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen. You literally just need a solid quarterback so you can somewhat evaluate the other positions on this offense because there's so many question marks. But if you don't have a quarterback in there, well, then you can't even fairly evaluate your wide receiver room, which is very, very weak at that, or your running back room, which is, albeit very dependent on rookies. So you need something at quarterback. And so that's how I see it going, in my opinion. You should start Pickett, give Flacco a chance. Yeah, why not? Pull him, start Pickett, and then whenever he probably inevitably struggles, you turn to Gabriel or you turn to Sanders and you just let your rookie go because you need literally anything at this point. You're coming with a 3-win season. You have nothing to lose. And their schedule is not easy either. Going to the running back room, though. So Judkins is in legal trouble, which is unfortunate because I think he is probably the best running back in this room right now, in my opinion. Dylan Sampson is awesome as well, and I'm actually really excited to see the way this room kind of unfolds. I think Jerome Ford is solid, but ideally, if you can have like Judkins and Sampson as your running back 1 and 2, that gives you a much higher ceiling and a much higher floor than if you just have Ford mixed into there, stealing some snaps away. So I expect this to start out with Ford kind of stealing the show for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Then after that, Judkins, assuming he is able to play, will increase his role, and Sampson will increase his role. If Judkins is not able to play, I expect a lot of Dylan Sampson early on because there has to be someone there to help out Ford, and I don't see it being Pierre Strong Jr. So, again, that's kind of up in the air because of the legal stuff, but that's a bit how I see that going. The wide receiver room, though, I mean, this is sketchy. I'm not gonna lie. This is sketchy. Jerry Jeudy had a great 2024 season, and it was very promising to me because I already said the injuries were a huge thing that scared me away from him. But he had a injury-free season for the most part. He was very reliable. He was great after the catch, great route runner. It's all those things we knew he is, but just hasn't been able to do because of his health. He was actually able to do that. So we need Jerry Jeudy. If you're a Browns fan, if you're on the Browns, you need him at his best for an entire season if you want to even think about breaking 500, in my opinion. Cedric Tillman is a solid wide receiver 3 or 2, in my opinion, not much more than that. If he's going to find success, it is because his quarterback will be elevating that team. And because of this quarterback room, I don't see him being elevated very much. So it's going to be very dependent on Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion. Deontay Johnson, here's the thing. I actually like Deontay Johnson a lot. He was really, really good in Pittsburgh, and then he goes to Carolina, and he's all right, and then he leaves midseason for the trade because he was kind of just personality-wise in the locker room. He goes to Baltimore, refuses to enter a game because he's like too cold or something, so then they let go of him. Really weird season for Deontay Johnson, and I have no idea what to expect for 2025. If he is committed to playing football at a level we've seen him play at, he's a very solid wide receiver 1 or 2, which will help out this Browns room a lot because as of right now, after Deontay Johnson, I mean, you need literally anybody and everybody stepping up from there because you have no depth at wide receiver. I don't have too much to say about the offensive line, and it sounds dumb saying this, but it's just because there's so many question marks at the quarterback room. I don't even know how much it matters how good this offensive line plays. Like, of course it matters, but with the floor of the quarterback being so low, I mean, the offensive line can only do so much to where if there's just no talent at quarterback, you can block all day, but you can't make these guys make the right reads. Like Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, just I have no idea what to even expect from him. Sanders, I think he is the ideal fit, but it's going to be a lot, I think, of losing for him to get a shot. So, offensive line-wise, I have confidence in a lot of these guys, but it's just going to be a rough year, man. But there are some bright spots on the Browns, and that is pretty much all on defense. I'm just going to kind of, not going to lie, I'm kind of skip ahead here. Usually I name every single guy. I actually want to talk about Mason Graham. So Mason Graham, this was someone that I think I projected to actually go to Jacksonville with the 5th overall pick, I believe. Obviously, they had a huge trade up. They went up and got Travis Hunter. The Browns moved back, and the Browns got Mason Graham. If I'm the Browns, I would not have passed up on Travis Hunter, but I also understand getting that return because of what you gave up for Watson, that you want some sort of asset. And I understand that. Like I really do. The Browns GM and their moves as a team have been criticized a lot in the last 5 years, and for good reason. They've made some very stupid moves, Deshaun Watson. But at the end of the day, getting more assets and still getting Mason Graham, I mean, this is a top 5 pick who can be a huge game disruptor at defensive tackle on the same defensive line you're having, Myles Garrett, pretty much the best defensive end in the league on. Like, I don't want that pick to really go under the radar because of the quarterback focus or lack thereof, or, them passing on Travis Hunter. Yeah, you passed up on Travis Hunter, but you still got Mason Graham. This is still a big deal, and this is still a player that could absolutely win Defense Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. So I like this pick a lot. Again, this is a Browns team that's going to struggle a lot. I'm not going to lie. In my opinion, I don't see it where they don't struggle. So you're going to be looking at those bright spots all year. Well, Mason Graham and Myles Garrett on the D line paired together, that's quite the bright spot in my opinion. Mason Graham can get to the backfield. He can disrupt the quarterback. He can blow up the run. He can do a lot of things really, really well for a rookie. So if you want to look at this in the perspective of, okay, the Browns are still this rebuilding team, quarterback and all aside, defensively they're making those moves to try and retool their defense and have that be the anchor until their offense is caught up. I understand that, and I actually understand getting Mason Graham from that perspective as well, because that is how you build a long-term sustainable defense, is you get guys like this. You just re-sign Myles Garrett for all that money. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but you have one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL on your team. So I do understand that. It looks weird because you go, oh, they pass up on Travis Hunter and they have no quarterback. They're in a bad spot. Yeah, they are in a bad spot, but they also did make some moves to try and help turn this around that I think aren't being talked about enough, because there are some bright spots. And Mason Graham, at least in my opinion, is a huge bright spot for this team. You still have Denzel Ward. Again, this is one of the best corners in the entire NFL. Actually, just recently, Jamar Chase said that Denzel Ward is probably the toughest corner he has to go up against because he understands leverage and angles so well. So again, that is someone you can point to on defense, and you'll always know, okay, if this guy's on the field, we at least have a shot to lock down, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, guys that you can't lock down, but you can help contain. Denzel Ward is one of very few on the field that can help actually do that, and luckily, again, he's on your defense. Martin Emerson Jr. and Greg Newsome both kind of struggled last year. Again, they are good players. I just don't know what to expect this year from them, to be honest with you. I think it's just going to be so reliant on how this defense meshes that I think it will be better than last year, but there's still just a lot of question marks. And yeah, let's talk about some of those. So on the screen right now are some players I just want to talk about. And I want to be very clear, I say this every video, that these are just some talking points for me. The players on the screen are just guys that I want to talk about a little bit more or elaborate on. Just because a player is not on the screen, that does not mean that I don't believe in them. Just so we are absolutely clear on that. But yeah, so offense has the eyes for literally everyone, and I gave them all player to watch. I've said this before as well. The unproven mark is usually given to veterans who are unproven, not rookies, because all rookies are unproven. But player to watch I gave to Sanders and Gabriel and Sampson and Judkins. And at the end of the day, the Browns offense is pretty much in the hands of rookies. I mean, it's really overstating it. And kind of oversimplifying it. But at the end of the day, I don't see Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco starting more than, 70% of the season, 60% of the season. So at a certain point, the ceiling has to be raised somehow. And how do you raise the ceiling? You get a rookie with a lot of upside. I don't think Dylan Gabriel has a lot of upside. But I've been wrong before. I didn't think Bo Nix was going to have the season he just had, and look what he just did. So I don't want to rule anything out, and the Browns liked Gabriel enough to take him in the 3rd round before they just went ahead and grabbed Sanders in the 5th. So this is not someone that the Browns are just going to push to the side and say, oh, well, we got Sanders in the 5th. We don't need to use our 3rd round pick anymore. I mean, that's a 3rd round pick. If you took a quarterback in the 3rd round, you believe in him, especially when you're looking at the Browns quarterback room. You didn't pick him to sit there all year. I mean, yeah, you brought in Joe Flacco, proven veteran. He had a solid year for Cleveland a couple of years ago. That's that. Kenny Pickett has struggled, pretty much every season he's been in the NFL. So if you're picking a rookie, you're not saying, oh, he's going to sit 17 games. We'll try him next year. I believe in Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco for this year. There's no way. There's just no way that's the Browns' reasoning, in my opinion. So Sanders and Gabriel are going to get a shot this year. I do really believe that. And it's the offense is just going to be reliant on where they can take it, because I think with Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett, where the offense is going to go from what they've shown so far. Unless there's this miracle boom season from Kenny Pickett, what you're getting with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. What you're getting with Joe Flacco at this age at quarterback, especially with the weapons around him. This is not a Vikings offense where you have the super strong wide receiver 1 and 2 and tight end and solid running back room. You don't have that. And speaking of running back room, Sampson and Judkins also have the eyes, because again, your running back room is going to be pretty reliant on rookies for where this is going to end up. This could be a really good season, or this could be a really bad season for the running back room. I think Judkins and Sampson are two great prospects. I really think that prior to the Sanders pick, you could see what the Browns were doing, like what they were envisioning. It was, okay, we want Judkins. Okay, we want Sampson. So they're clearly trying to get a reliable running game because they haven't had that since Nick Chubb got hurt. Okay, that makes sense. Then they get Dylan Gabriel in the third round. Very surprising, but okay, they believe in him. They need a quarterback. They chose him there. It all kind of made sense until the Sanders pick. So you can call that, an owner's pick or whatever it is. It definitely was surprising from where it happened, judging off how the draft went earlier, earlier to him being picked. But I do think that you don't pick Gabriel unless you believe in him in the third round, because that was prior to the Sanders pick. So I expect to see him. I think Sanders has the higher ceiling, to be honest with you, but he also was not the guy they believed in first. So I think Gabriel is going to have kind of first dibs, per se, as far as the rookie quarterbacks go. And this team is going to be in his hands. And the running back room is going to be in Judkins' hands, Sampson's hands. These are guys that have not even stepped on the football field yet in the NFL, and they are carrying a lot of weight for how your offense is going to rank throughout the season. And that's just why I'm so up in the air on the Browns, is because a lot of the guys at these super important positions that are starting that you need to see produce, we haven't even seen the NFL yet. So it's really hard to get behind that and say, okay, they're going to compete at a really high level in the toughest conference in the league and one of the toughest divisions in the league when they've never played in the NFL before. That's just a huge, huge stab in the dark for me. Defensively, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward have the gem. This is given to like the top 5 to 6, maybe even 7 players at that respective position. I think Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are absolutely top 5, 6, even 7 at their position. I think they're top 5. Myles Garrett's probably top 1, top 2. Denzel Ward's probably top 3, top 4, top 5. With that said, though, regardless, these are guys that you can at least point to in your defense and say, okay, we at least have Myles Garrett. We at least have Denzel Ward. When things go bad this year, you can always turn to them, and that is incredibly important when trying to turn a team around, because it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of losing involved. I'm not going to lie to you. Mason Graham, though, I gave the eyes to. This is, in my opinion, among literally every single defensive player chosen in the draft, Mason Graham has one of the highest ceilings for me, because of his ability to just make the other team uncomfortable. He makes his presence felt. And I think when you look at defensive players, specifically guys in the defensive line, people look at the box score and say, oh, he only had 6 sacks on the year. Well, that's not that good. He's not a very good player. Oh, he only had, 3 tackles for loss. And it's so easy to look at that and say, oh, well, if he's not sacking the quarterback, then he's not doing anything. And it's just not true. And I think it's unfortunate because some guys' role truly isn't to sack the quarterback. Of course they want to, but they're able to get there, and make the quarterback have to throw the ball a little bit differently on that play. Turn his arm a little bit differently, and all of a sudden the ball's intercepted, deflected, off target on a big third down. It's guys that are able to get there and make their presence felt, disrupt the running game, make the running back have to make a cut too early. He wasn't planning on cutting. All of a sudden he's lost a yard. Now it's a 3rd and 5 when it could have been a first down, or a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. It's those type of plays that I think Mason Graham shows up big on, and I think he can show up very big on for the Browns this year. And when you pair him with Myles Garrett, I see this being a very, very active defensive line. So that's why I have so much confidence in the defensive line, not only because they have Myles Garrett, but also because of Mason Graham. And I don't want to completely ignore the other guys on there, but I truly do just feel like these are the guys that are going to take it to that next level. That's just how much I believe in Mason Graham as a rookie. So yeah, with that said, the strength of this team is going to be the defense, as it usually is for the Browns at this point. I do truly believe the defensive line is going to be the best part about this team. I don't even know how close, honestly. I mean, unless the quarterback or the running back room explodes and has a terrific year, I think the D-line is going to be by far the strength of this team. And I don't want to make everything so negative, but it is truly hard to feel a lot of confidence in the Browns when you just had a 3-14 season. you don't really have okay, that's the quarterback we got. It's going to be a bit better this year. Joe Flacco, looking at him, at this stage of his career, that doesn't make me feel better at quarterback after having a 3-14 season. And for running back room as well, I think Dylan Sampson and Quinton Judkins are two awesome prospects, and I think they can be very, very good in the NFL. But if they're not, I mean, you have Jerome Ford, and that's it. You have Pierre Strong at the fourth string running back, but you need these picks to produce. And while I am confident in that, it's still not a guarantee. We still have no idea what to expect from these guys because they have not played a down in the NFL yet, and they are carrying a lot of the weight for the offensive production this year, and that's what scares me so much about the Browns. So with that said, I do always have this little chart here just because it's easy to see, kind of see where I'm ranking these teams as far as offense and defense and all. So just on the screen right here, it's low. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's pretty low. It's probably one of the lowest charts I have for any team this season. And it sucks because I think the Browns, they've had potential over the past couple seasons, but they just have not made the right decisions. And truthfully, the Deshaun Watson trade set this team back. I mean, you lost first-round picks because of that. You lost so much money. And yeah, you've restructured it, but what have you got? You've got nothing. I mean, he hasn't even played a full season for you. And when he has played, he's been, in my opinion, the worst quarterback in the NFL. And if he's not the worst, he has not been better than the 30th. So it's rough because it was pretty preventable, to be honest with you. I think they just got really eager and they saw Watson as their ticket to a lot of success, and it just wasn't. So with that said, you're still kind of feeling the repercussions from that. I have the offense as a C- to C tier, but it's just so up in the air. I mean, if any of those quarterbacks have a huge season, this could be a B tier offense. If Shadur Sanders comes in, plays terrific, and both Judkins and Sampson are these huge hits in the draft, maybe it's a B plus offense. Maybe it's an A minus offense. I mean, Jerry Jeudy's had a great season. So it's not like the potential isn't there. It's just that the floor is so unbelievably low. And I think to even give Sanders, who in my opinion does have the highest ceiling, to even give him a shot, you have to have failure to get to him at this point. So it's going to be rough. Defensively, I gave you B minus to C plus. I think it's going to be good, but I think your offense is so bad. You're going to be on the field so much defensively. It's going to be wearing you down, and whether it's injuries or just lack of energy, it's going to catch up to them. It's exactly what happened to the Panthers 2 years ago, where Bryce Young's rookie year, he was just awful, and the defense was good, but over the course of the season, they couldn't get off the field. So they end up being terrible, when in reality, when they were healthy, when they were, week 4, week 5, they were pretty solid. They were keeping them in games. But you can't play a whole season of having your defense constantly put on the field and being worn down. It's not sustainable. So that's how I see the Browns season going for them. Unfortunately, now we haven't got to the record prediction yet, though, so hang on, don't go anywhere. But I do see it being a rough season. And I think now as we kind of transition to the record part of the video, a large part of the kind of feelings I had toward the Browns, a large part of that also stems from outside forces, not just the struggles that they're going to face on their own, but their schedule, their division. I mean, it is going to be really, really rough. This is not the NFC South 2 years ago where you could be, almost below 500 and make the playoffs. That is not this division. The top of your division are Super Bowl contenders. The Browns and the Bengals are Super Bowl contenders. The Steelers could have a huge turnaround this season. This is not a division where you're going to have a lot of fun if you're toward the bottom of the NFL. Because if you're toward the bottom of the NFL, then you're going to get stomped in the AFC North. Because it's one of the best divisions in all of football. So let's go ahead and get into the record. I have them going 3-14 again. And I'm sorry, I can't see games on here where I have a lot of confidence in them. I did give them the Bengals week 1, though. So hopefully any Browns fans watching this, you'll at least appreciate me for that. They always beat the Bengals in Cleveland, no matter how bad they are. The Bengals always start slow. I think it's a recipe to where the Browns can at least get a week 1 win. But after that, it's going to be tough. You play the Ravens in Baltimore. You play the Packers in Cleveland, the Lions in Detroit, the Vikings in Cleveland, the Steelers in Pittsburgh. You don't really get a break. I mean, it's the NFL. There's no free games any week. There's no breaks for anybody, but especially this schedule. This schedule is tough. For a 3-14 team to draw this schedule, this is tough. Pretty much the only games I could see going either way would be the Dolphins game and the Patriots game. That's about it. I mean, I gave them the Browns game as a little bit of an upset later on in the season because they're not going to be favored in that game either. So, again, I think at the absolute best is like 6-11 maybe as like the ceiling for them. I just don't see it. And again, not even to really go in on the Browns' struggles on their own. Like, I don't see a world where they beat the Ravens or the Lions. You know, I mean, it's going to be tough. The 49ers, yeah, they might be kind of rough this year. Maybe that's one Cleveland can steal if their defense steps up. So, in my opinion, if they get 6 wins, those other 3 wins are Miami, New England, and San Francisco. But I don't even see you beating Las Vegas when you go to Vegas, truthfully. And I don't see you beating the Bills. I think you split with the Bengals. The Jets will be a tough game defensively. I think the Vikings offense will probably wear down the Browns defense, to be honest with you. I think the Packers, Jordan Love is a little inconsistent, I will say that. So maybe the Browns defense forced them to like 2 or 3 interceptions and kind of steals a close one there. But I don't see you beating the Lions. Lions, Bills, and Ravens are teams I just don't see them really competing with, to be honest with you. Steelers, I have them sweeping as well, getting swept by as well. So it's tough. It really is. 3-14 is where I felt comfortable, and that was with giving 2 upsets to the Bears and the Bengals. The Titans game, I do think the Browns can win that. Titans offense is going to be in a similar spot to the Browns with a lot of question marks, and I think the Browns defense is going to be able to at least slow down Cam Ward at that point. So, but again, this is July. I'm talking about a game in like November or December, so it's a little tough to predict that accurately. But at least as of right now, that's how I'd see it going. So I'm sorry, Browns fans. I just think there's too many question marks. There's too many unknowns. Too many things have to go just right to find a lot of success this year. And yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think best case scenario, Sanders makes the most of his shot, or Gabriel makes the most of his shot, and the running back room, both rookies hit, and you can get 6 wins. But if they got 7 or more, I would truly be shocked because this is just a tough schedule in general. Not even just, oh, make fun of the Browns. No, this is a tough schedule for anybody, especially one where you have a question mark at quarterback, wide receiver depth, running back, secondary, maybe even linebackers. I mean, it's going to be tough. But yeah, so let me know down below what you guys think the Browns are going to do in 2025. Is it going to be a big surprise? I mean, we've seen big turnarounds. We've seen Washington's turnaround last year. You know, the Bengals after they drafted Jamar Chase, that was a big turnaround. Texans with C.J. Stroud, that was a big turnaround. So it's always possible, but there's just not enough elsewhere in the team to make me feel comfortable enough to really predict it. So yeah, let me know down below what you guys think. Make sure to subscribe if you guys did enjoy. We're going to see more videos like this. The AFC North is now done. Moving on to the probably AFC, I don't know, East, West, South, whatever you guys want. Comment down below. Next, a tier list video. Then after that, we're back to these, getting all of these done for all 32 teams before September 4th. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I would really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.